March the 28th, 2022. The month is flying by, and this is the last week of the first quarter of 2022. So I hope you guys who have been joining me either in person or live, as well as those on the replay, are looking at your goals, doing some self-reflection, assessing and reassessing your goals now that it's coming to the close of the first quarter of 2022, so we can assess what it is that we want to keep going in the second quarter, as well as what we want to jumpstart for the second quarter. Take away those things that aren't working and revise them. And maybe there's some new things that you want to do that you discovered might work for this second quarter. We're all about accomplishing goals and being present in the moment while striving for our next on this show of Midday Motivation, Life with Sharon. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. I have a great show in store for you today. We're talking about communication all week. Communication is foundation to every relationship. You can't have a relationship without communication, whether it's healthy communication or unhealthy. But we're going to get on track with healthy communication this week and beyond with how to communicate assertively, which is the discussion for today. How to communicate assertively. We can communicate in other ways, but assertively is the most effective way to get the result that you want. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the result that you want, because when you're communicating with another party, you can't control them. The only thing you can control is what you say out of your mouth. Even if you say things in the best way possible, the other person doesn't have to respond in kind because they have control over what they do. But if you want to have the best percentage of getting the result that you want, communicating assertively is the way to do it, rather than communicating the other two ways, which would be aggressively on one end of the continuum and passively on the other end of the continuum. And assertive is in the middle, and that's where we should all strive to be. So that's what our conversation is about today. But before we get started, please subscribe to the channel Full Life Communications on the YouTube page, the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, as well as Instagram. But we're only broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. So subscribe to the channel, like the page, click the notification bell so you're notified every time that I'm on. You won't have to think about it, and share the feed. Now, let me tell you what I discovered about sharing the feed, and I do want you to share it. However, if you are watching from a channel that's not Full Life Communications, or a page is not Full Life Communications, and you say something on a feed, I won't be able to see what you've written. I can only see when people write from the page that I am actually broadcasting live from, which is Full Life Communications on Facebook as well as YouTube. So I'm gonna give you a second to do that. I'm gonna make sure I'm checking my messages to make sure, because someone has texted me. Okay, people text me to let me know how my feed is going, because sometimes it's messed up and I don't know it. So now make sure I check my text messages during the show to make sure everything is good. So if you're watching, please say hello so I can shout you out, and also I can know that you're watching and just say thank you, as well as making sure that you can hear me and all is well. So if you could just say hello and say all is well, if all is well. But if you can't hear me, let me know. Just say something in the chat. But now we're going to get to the heart of the matter, communicating assertively. It is extremely, and I can't say extremely enough, important to communicate assertively rather than, again, passively or aggressively. So let me just give you a few tips. A passive communicator does not share what it is, and I'm generalizing with both, what it is that they want to say. They tend to go along with the crowd, if you will, or the other person. Their voice has been lost somewhere in their, growth and development. And so therefore, they just kind of take a back seat with what's going on. Others may suggest, let's go to this movie, let's go to this restaurant, and it's all well with them. Well, all seemingly well. There's times I'm sure that they want to do some things that may not be suggested, but they don't make their own suggestions, right? And so they're kind of going along with the crowd because they're passive communicators. The aggressive communicators on the other end of the continuum, where the aggressive communicator is honest in how they perceive things and what they share, and they're direct. However, with the aggressive communicator, they don't take into consideration the other person's feelings when they're sharing their truth, their honesty. So they could, use profanity, they could use belittling and demeaning words, and communicate in an angry, volatile, aggressive manner in how they're speaking to the person. And so, therefore, the other person, we don't know how they'll feel about that. But typically, who wants to be communicated to in an aggressive manner? People tend to turn people off when someone is communicating to them using, words that don't sound good to my ear, and it sounds like you're putting me down, or you're just being mean and angry. That doesn't come across well. Therefore, I'm not going to respond well. More than likely, I'll respond in a defensive posture because of how you're speaking to me. So that's not effective as well. The assertive communicator is honest and direct as well. However, they do take into consideration the feelings of the other person. They're not rude like the aggressive person is rude. The assertive person is not rude. Assertive people share what it is that they think, what it is that they feel, and they are honest and direct about it and firm about it, and that's it. So let me give you an example. So if I were to say to someone, you never listen to me, starting the sentence off with you, first of all, makes people feel attacked and blamed, and therefore they're going to come back on the defensive because it sounds like you're attacking me, even if you don't have your finger pointing or anything like that. But starting the sentence off with you puts people on the defensive because it sounds like an attack or a blame. So if I say you never listen to me, then more than likely the person is going to come back on the defensive and say, yes, I do, or whatever. And then always, of course, we never say never or always, but that's what we tend to do. That phrase, you never listen to me, versus if I say, I feel unheard. Which one sounds better to your ear? I feel unheard. One is I use an I statement, which doesn't blame you for how I feel or how I think. I'm taking ownership by saying I think or I feel. And that's another caveat. When you're using I feel, and we tend to get this wrong a lot of times, myself included, because we're just kind of talking. When you say I feel, a feeling word should follow, not a statement. And oftentimes we'll say I feel and make a statement. I feel you should do this, or I feel this way about something. That's not a feeling, that's a thought. So I feel, after feel should be, I feel happy, I feel glad, I feel mad, I feel angry, I feel frustrated. Feeling words should follow I feel. If it's a statement, then it's I think. Then you can go on with the statement. But typically you hear people all day long saying, I feel, I feel, I feel, and the statement follows. So that's a tidbit of information right there. You should probably take a notepad today with all these nuggets that I'm giving you about communicating. So back to this, to the scenario, to the example, I feel unheard versus you never listen to me. Obvious which one sounds better to the ear, and that more than likely will get the better result. And again, you can't control the other person. So even if you say, I feel unheard, they could still blow up and respond because they have their own issues and you don't know what they're going through, and they're just responding based on whatever. But the reason to be assertive is not based on what another person, how they're going to behave or think. It's because it's the right way to communicate. It's the best way to communicate. It's to get the result that you want, and also to be the person that you want to be. So let me further that sentence along in order so you can see how to get the result. Because when we're talking about feelings, feelings shouldn't be denied, right? They should be communicated, but often we behave off of our feelings. If I say I feel angry, a lot of times people don't even say that. It's just demonstrated in their behavior. I'm angry, or I'm doing something that demonstrates it, and I'm acting in an angry way. I can just say I feel angry. I didn't have an attitude about it. You didn't hear me demonstrate anger. I just said, I feel angry. And now you know. So with the other example, I feel unheard. Now let's further it. So now you know what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling unheard, because there's a behavior in there that we should deal with in order for the person to change so that I can feel heard. So just saying I feel unheard doesn't get anyone to change a behavior. Well, what do you mean you don't feel heard? I listen to you. We're talking right now. It's just my feeling, and it doesn't give the person any direction. So I say I feel unheard when you text while we're talking. Now, texting is the behavior that they can change. So I've just given them feedback about a behavior that I find disruptive when we're communicating and that they can do something about. And the last leg of this sentence, so I feel and heard when you're texting while we're talking, I would appreciate in the future if you would not do that. So now I'm appreciating them in advance of doing what I'm asking them to do to feel heard. And I'm appreciating them in advance. So therefore letting them know, I know you can do it. And I'm appreciating you in advance because I appreciate you taking the time to consider what it is that I'm saying and then doing that and letting you know, I know you can do it. So I'm appreciating you in advance, which then spurs the person on a little bit more to want to do it because I've just shown you appreciation for what it is that I know you're about to do for me because of our relationship. So I feel unheard when you're texting the behavior. And I appreciate you. I would appreciate if you would do that in the future when we're talking. So just appreciate you in advance for what I know you're going to do. So that's that three-pronged sentence. The texting can change. So now, since it was put like that, the person, of course, again, the person can respond however they want to respond, but more than likely, hopefully, they'll respond in kind. So they may say something like, oh, my bad. I didn't really even realize that considering our phone is attached to us like another limb. They may not have really realized that they're doing double duty, trying to listen to you and as well as texting. I can do that. I can put the phone down when we're talking. My bad. Something along those lines. So now, problem solved. I'm not burying the issue. And that's what assertive people do. They don't allow things to be swept under the rug. And now we got this giant issue between us, many issues between us, because as it's swept under the rug, the hump grows. And now you're on one side, I'm on the other side. And we've got too much between us to see. And it seems like it's unresolvable. So an assertive person deals with things as they come up so we can squash it and move on to the next. And we don't have this buildup of issues between us. So remember, it's always the how and not the what when you're communicating, and pretty much in other ways too. It's how you do a thing, not what you do. So with communication, it's how you say a thing, not what you say. You and me can say the same things. Like I said, I feel unheard versus you never listen to me. Who is going to get the better result? More than likely the assertive person rather than the aggressive person. And the passive person is not going to say anything. So it's going to build up, and the aggressive person is going to build up too because the other person didn't like how they spoke to them. So it's still an unresolved issue. Whereas the assertive person more than likely is going to get a result. It's resolved and we can move on. So that is several. Those are several keys using I statements versus you statements when you want to be an assertive communicator. And when you say I feel, use a feeling word after it. Happy, mad, sad, glad, angry, frustrated, whatever the feeling is that you're feeling. Tap into it. We're feeling 24/7, 365. We're always feeling. Whether you are aware of what you're feeling is a different story. We're always feeling. There's not a moment in time you're not feeling something. So tap into what it is that you're feeling so you can use the right feeling word to express what it is that you're feeling so the other person can really understand where you're coming from. So if you're feeling frustrated, don't use the word angry. I'm feeling frustrated. And say that. And now the person knows. And then you can tell them what it is you're feeling frustrated about. So I statements versus you statements. You statements make people feel blamed and attacked, and they're going to come back on the defensive, and that's just going to create an argument. So after you state how you feel or think or I feel, whichever one you want to do. If you want to make a statement, you say I think. Then the statement. I feel, a feeling word follows it. And then speak to the behavior that you want to be changed, that you want to be worked on. And then appreciate them or thank them in advance for doing what it is that you're asking them to do. So those are 3 tips right off the bat today with how to be an assertive communicator. You'll see that you will get a much better result if you aren't already an assertive communicator. So whatever type of communication style you have, that's pretty much how you are everywhere. Now we tend to sometimes, go back and forth between one and the other. We can be more assertive with certain people that we feel more comfortable with versus other people where we don't. We may take a passive seat, but the goal is to be assertive everywhere. So that becomes who you are. And you'll notice when you become an assertive communicator, you garner more respect from others because others will know that you're going to be honest and that you're going to be able to give constructive rather than destructive feedback. So they will come to you because you know how to say it without being offensive. And that's a good thing because people are walking around saying all kinds of who knows what and being very offensive in their language because they've never been taught how to communicate. Again, many things go back to our childhood. However, it was communication was in the family. That's how I grew up communicating. But again, as a child, you may not have control, but as an adult, you do. And if you want to improve your communication, work on communicating assertively rather than if you're in one of the other categories, passively or aggressively. So I hope you gained some knowledge today regarding how to communicate assertively using those I statements rather than the you statements, because we don't want people to feel blamed and attacked. Being firm, being honest, taking into consideration how another person feels, because how would you want to be communicated to? You would want someone to communicate to you in an assertive manner rather than an aggressive manner or a passive manner. So do the same for others and speak to the behavior that can be changed, right? That's key. Just saying I feel unheard doesn't give the person any direction. Speak to the behavior and then appreciate them and thank them in advance for what it is that you would like for them to do. That's just one example. You could put any behavior in there for any situation. So that is our show for today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what's tomorrow's topic today? Okay, your words, right? Your words shape your world. Your words have power. We're going to talk about the words that you use and how powerful they are and how they truly shape your world. Negative speech promotes negative outcomes. Positive speech promotes positive outcomes. So that's just a simple brief before tomorrow's show. Thank you so much for joining me today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you learned something today that you'll be able to use in your journey toward becoming an assertive communicator if you're not already there. If you're already there, kudos to you. Help others to become assertive communicators who are in your sphere of influence. So that is key. So you can be helpful to them. Thank you so much. Join me tomorrow at 12:30 for another live episode of Life with Sharon, Midday Motivation. Thank you for those who are watching on the replay. I love you. Thank you so much. And thank you for those who are watching live. I appreciate all the support and encouragement. We encourage one another on this show. God bless you. Have a God day. Shalom.